Hi there. Um, if life was a human being, it would be a mean little child. That's something that I said at some point of my life when I was feeling super down, I think. And so I think I'm gonna create a character, but it's not gonna be like a human. It is going to be life itself. Like, um, life is going to be the character, and we're just going to think of it the way that we want to think of it. Like it's not the like even if I'm making this character doesn't mean life is all about this. I'm just making it to explore a point of life again. Well, yeah. So life is this mean child called life, you know, and life. I'm just gonna say they. I don't think they're he or she, because it would be weird if I said he, which I was about to, because when I think of mean children, I think of my brother. But yeah, I think it would be sexist if I said that. I don't wanna say it, so I'm gonna go with they. So life. Uh, when mm, Life knows that there's two states. Either you can be dead or you can be alive. If you're alive, you're experiencing them. If you're dead, you're experiencing death, of course. It's a whole different thing. I think um, life and death, they get along. They don't fight or something. They just acknowledge how each of them are, and they're kind of like, let me just focus on my business type of like mindset. They genuinely don't care what the other one is doing with the people who really. Um, but death is kind of confused because life seems to be enjoying to make fun of things that are experiencing life. It's very weird. Like, life basically has the ability to control fate. And at some point of their life, I guess they just started feeling super bored, you know? So, you know how, like, a plant, for example, can have a whole, like, I don't know, a life story, like a very inspiring life story. We can't really understand plants, but I'm imagining it's just thoughts. It's just um, like when they were a baby, they thought about this as this, or it's just like floating feelings. There isn't anything happening in plants' lives, but I don't know, it's just feelings, I think. But whatever, a plant can have like a inspiring story of its own, just like a full-on realization that they had, and then their story might just end with someone stepping on it, and that's life being super sarcastic about this, which sometimes feels bad because um, this kind of reminds me of like high school bullying and stuff. And nobody wants to imagine their life to not take them seriously. They would imagine that there's something out there that understands them completely, you know? But if this is how life is acting, like, it really gets depressing because, like, even life doesn't acknowledge the things that we feel. It gets weird, you know? Also, when life makes jokes, nobody but him laughs. Ah, I said him. Ah, frick. Nobody but them laughs. Okay. Nobody but them laughs. I feel like if you were to laugh at a joke that and life made, you would have been like, you would have to stop respecting yourself to do that, literally. Um, which is not good. So yeah, don't laugh at anything, any joke that life is making. Um, I when I think of this character, of course, a human being doesn't come to mind. Basically, I think of like a whole painting. Okay, um, half of it is nighttime, and it's quiet, and it's just air, like it's just the sound of air, and dead trees and graves, and nighttime and some stars and the moon. That's death. The other half of the painting, they're attached to themselves because, I mean, in the whole frame there's nothing but life and death, and you can't really be in between. So they're attached to themselves. And the other half of the painting is like light, like super, there's light everywhere, and it's like sun, very bright, and it's like a smiling face too, because of how much it's really making fun of, and stuff. Yeah. Mm. So, and death is like, just as I said, death is, they are like a very quiet person, and mm, I feel like when it comes to death, it's just quietness. Of course, this is just a story. In real life, it might be super different. Nobody knows what's gonna happen after death. But I feel like in this story, like after learning about how life is a freaking jerk, having night as a kind being that just lets you sit down quietly, doesn't play with you, doesn't do anything to you, is more comforting. So that's how we're going to think of death as well in the story. Yeah, so this is not a real story. It's not about a human being either, but it's about the thought that I had at a point of my life. And I keep having this, like, I do sometimes, this became like a catchphrase to me sometimes, Like, if life was a human being, it would be a child, and a mean child, is what I said at a point of my life. And whenever things go bad, I just say this. I don't know, it just makes sense, but like, it doesn't make anything better. Maybe just acknowledge that even life might be making fun of you at some point. Your life could be a comedy to watch.